Who were brokenhearted and were crushed as a result of the hurricane and the fires that swept through Maui. Samaritan's Purse emphasizes that although we're there to minister to folks' material needs, that our priority is to share and show the love of Jesus Christ to these folks. And we were able to do so with Kathy, with Thomas, with Dee, with Nancy, and many more. Particularly in Nancy's case, she was an older woman, single, had lost a number of her friends in the fires in Lahaina. And we were able to share the gospel with her, and when we were parting and praying with tears coming down her face and some other people's faces as well, she professed her faith in the Lord Jesus Christ as her Savior. The blessing, though, and the privilege extends beyond ministering to these homeowners. It also extends to the teams that meet there. These are teams from all over the country, and in our case, from different parts of the world as well. And I always marvel at the level of intimacy and love that the Holy Spirit develops within these teams. And by the time we're ready to leave, we're saying goodbye to our best friends, who just a week ago we hadn't even met, and we're total strangers. And I'm sure some of the team will be sharing some of these folks with you today, Sam and Cliff and Randall, so you'll be hearing about that. Last Sunday, Pastor, you were talking about the value of the physical expressions of love within the body. And, we prayed at least 6 times a day as a group. And most of those times we were praying holding hands or hands on shoulders. There were plenty of hugs, and I think all that contributed to the bond that developed there. Now, we could not have done any of this without your help. Samaritan's Purse covers all the costs once we get to the site, but getting there is our responsibility. And we're so grateful for the Gospel Advancement Fund that was made available to us so we could make this trip. And I would just ask of you if, in addition to your normal giving, if the Lord would lead it or lay it on your heart to contribute to this fund, to do so, and to make it possible for others to go in the future. In this particular case, as is often the case, we have a very short period of time between when we get notified of a need and when we have to report. This time it was literally one day. And so if any of you are interested in serving, please either notify me directly or I think it's what's it called? Sign Up Genius is being put on the website, and you could sign up there. We'd love to have you come and be a part of this ministry. And finally, before the team comes and shares their experiences, just Pastor Randall, one of the team members there who lived or had lived in Lahaina, shared a little gift for you and just expressed his gratitude for sending a team to minister to his family and his friends from Lahaina. So thank you again so much for the opportunity, and I will give the team an opportunity to share their experiences.
I said a 2-minute warning. So thank you for allowing us to go, again, short notice. And things that stood out to me, and I'll just go quickly, and when the timer goes, I'll stop, is God's providence. If you can, Maui, picture it as an island shaped like a peanut. Picture it laying on its side. On the left side, on the smaller end, is Lahaina. And the videos and photos that the news showed you is accurate. Those pictures aren't dramatized. They didn't pick the worst site. When you drive the highway along Lahaina, the whole thing is just burnt out and leveled. And it was really quite a sight to see. the providence of God working for Samaritan's Purse and his glory, his ministry, was we were located, again, if you picture that peanut, picture the narrow part. We were on the right side of that narrow part. I think we call it an isthmus, at a church, Valley Isle Fellowship Church. The providence was for Samaritan Purse, my understanding, is to get as close to Lahaina as possible. We were in that narrow part. To the right of that narrow part, on the larger part of the peanut, is Kula, where some of the original fires started and the wind damage. And Samaritan's Purse was not able to get as close to Lahaina as originally planned. But this started when Samaritan's Rapid Response Team reps, the site managers arrived at the airport. The woman that's one of the managers was across the baggage claim and saw across the way a man with a Michigan State shirt. And being a woman, she just doesn't go over and talk to men, but I'm done. Let me finish. They have a lot more to fill in the details, but in God's providence, she went over, I'm glad I did that because I lose track of time. She went over and said, "You went to Michigan State or University?" He said, "Yeah," they engaged. He was supposed to have been there the next day, but in God's providence, he was there at the same time she was. She had introduced herself. They went to the same school. Here, he was a pastor of this Valley Isle Baptist Church. That was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And she said, "We're here to set up a camp to minister to the people of Maui." And by 4, they parted, and by 4 o'clock, she received a call that the church had offered their site. They abandoned their auditorium. We set it up as men and women's dorm. They gave up their auditorium for, I believe, 3 weeks of worship. They had canopies set outside. So when they gathered weekly, they met and worshiped outside while we were able to be inside. And God's providence that allowed time for the tent city, or tent camp, to be set up about 10 minutes from Lahaina, while we were able to be 45 minutes away from Kula to the right. And so in God's providence, that's where we were, Samaritan's Purse. And again, God is working in an amazing way. And I'll stop there. Sorry.
Hey, just in case you don't know, this is Brian Rickards. And no, I just was thinking if you'll introduce yourself, that way in case you don't know who these folks are. And just to survey you real quickly, how many of you wish that I had an alarm when my time was up that went off like that one? It was okay.
All right, so I'm Jacqueline Rickards, and this was, for Brian and I, this was our first trip with Samaritan's Purse, and it might seem exciting, oh, your first trip, you get to go to Maui, but it was very hard work, and we, in all honesty, the two of us, we had about 4 hours of sightseeing the entire time we were there, so this wasn't a Christian tourism trip. We worked hard. The theme of the trip really was being flexible. We were told ahead of time, be about 40 people maybe, 3 showers. We may or may not be able to wash clothes while we're there. You're going to be doing dirty work, but oh, by the way, if you can pack in a carry-on and backpack, that would be preferable. So how do you do that? So we managed to do that. We thought we were going to be helping people from Lahaina proper sift through houses, what was left, to find valuables to them. Instead, there's been a delay in Samaritan's Purse getting into Lahaina because of all sorts of reasons, some trust issues. So we were helping the people who would have been overlooked in Kula, and we were cutting up a lot of huge trees that came down in the massive winds that flamed these fires in Lahaina. So there were fires up there on the mountain too, and all these downed trees. So we were just doing grunt work the whole week. Jack and Matt and 2 others from not a part of our church were doing the cutting, and the rest of us were stacking logs, dragging branches, piling branches, and where we thought we might be emotionally exhausted from the trip, we were physically exhausted. But God provided. There were some good prayer warriors from the chaplains who were there and you people here. And we had the stamina to get through, even us older folks. And one particular interesting answered prayer was, I had a pair of borrowed boots. And because we were packing light, I wore my boots to go, and I had a pair of sandals. That's all the footwear. And when I took my boots off the first night, they started coming apart. So we had no transportation. So somebody was able to do a Walmart run and get some glue and glued my boots. That lasted 2 days, and then they both started coming apart. So we glued them again, and one of the other people there was another team from Pennsylvania, and she said, how about duct tape? Duct tape. But they found some Gorilla duct tape on the truck and wrapped this tape around the soles and everything. And then one of the newer chaplains who came in said, oh, if there's anything I can ever pray for you. So the next morning I said, you know what, honestly, here's a prayer request. I got these boots. And so she prayed, and my boots didn't come apart again. So they stayed behind in Maui because they weren't worth carting home. But God answered a lot of prayers for safety and stamina, and it was good work. We were there because Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And so we were loving on the people of Kula, from doing tree work to spending extra money at a little marketplace where they were hurting because of lack of tourism. And so we just like, all right, we're going to buy extra food here, extra souvenirs or whatever, just to bless them. And so that's how we loved our neighbors.
Hello, I'm Jack Skasko. Yes, it was definitely a blessing to be there, and I'm thankful for EBBC to provide this trip for us, and to be a part of Samaritan Post. It's such a great organization. The time that we get to spend with the homeowners and just talk to them and just try to comfort them is what it was all about. You know, like Gordon said, we were leaving our best friends behind. So we made a lot of very close friends there, and it was hard to say goodbye to them all, and they will definitely be missed. But I'm just very thankful that God allowed me to be able to do this and be a part of it. I love doing this, and like Jacqueline said, it was definitely hard work. This was by far the hardest trip I had. You know, Florida and Mississippi were definitely hard in different ways. Each trip is unique in its own way. So, you know, it all depends on, you know, what's needed to be done, and God willing, it all gets done. And we have a chance to, you know, comfort the homeowners and pray with them, and that's what it's all about. And I just love it. Thank you.
Jack, was this your third trip?
Third.
Awesome. Amen. Thank you.
I love it.
Amen.
Hi, Jack. So I'm Matt, not a public speaker. You're all about to bear witness. So I was primarily on a pole saw the entire time. So wore out my arm and my back. But I'd say it was amazing how far people would travel to help another. So we had people from Pennsylvania, Alaska, and Grenada. So didn't even know where Grenada was, now I do. But I'd say that was probably the most amazing part. So that was all.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bridget Gallagher, and this was my second trip with Samaritans. So this time we had an opportunity to actually spend the night. We were sleeping with all of our new friends that we just met. But Samaritans really enforces that whole fellowship piece. So every morning we would have breakfast together, we would do devotions, we would pray before we would leave, and then on each work site we would pray in. So we would introduce ourselves to the homeowners, pray into the site, and then once the work was completed, we would present this Billy Graham Training Bible, which is specific to victims of different natural disasters. We would pray out, and then we would leave. And then at the end of each day, we would come back together and kind of eat as a family, and we had an opportunity to go over what they call as God moments, and just highlighting those little things that you might not otherwise recognize or take notice of throughout your daily kind of interactions with people, but all of the tiny things. So a lot of different God moments kind of popped up for me, and we'll be as brief as possible. So for instance, finding the church, that was definitely a God moment that was huge for Samaritans, and that gave us the opportunity to work in Kula. I am very intimidated by the idea of witnessing to people. So if you are afraid of that, welcome. Samaritans gave me the platform to be the hands and feet of Jesus in a way that is physical manual labor, but like Matt said, you have people coming from all over the world to support people, and that's where really you're showing the love of Christ, where somebody is just overwhelmed by the tragedy that they're in, and they're seeing, you came this far just to help me. It's really a tangible love of Christ. And I had an opportunity to actually present my first Bible on this trip after one of our work sites. And I had said to my team leader at the time, I'm not adequate. I'm not equipped to do this. I don't have the right words. I don't know what to say. And all of that fear creeped in of, if they ask a question of why, I don't have the answers. I don't believe that I have enough scriptural basis to say, go here, this is what it is. So he prayed over me and gave me the confidence and that kind of thing. And then I presented the Bible. And I don't remember everything that I said, but I know that it was very impactful for that homeowner. We shared contact information, and it just opened the door to give me understanding that I don't have to be adequate. I don't have to have everything, because I'll never be enough. And the Lord will come into that time of need and really give you everything that it is that you need. So I would encourage everyone to take the opportunity if you can. It has nothing to do with being able-bodied or anything like that. You have a chance to show the tangible love of Christ, and Samaritans provides that platform. So for me, it was a very personal trip in the sense that I went in an effort to help other people, but I think I came home with a lot more. Our friend Sam is in Alabama. She's watching today, and she is an absolute, just wonderful, wonderful human. And I know that she was placed personally for me. I've really loved meeting her. I've talked to her every day since, but it's just one of those people that kind of stewards your relationship with Christ and is that great example. Randall, another one of our volunteers, he lived in Lahaina, lost family members. He was there every day. He's a professional arborist, so for cleaning up in Kula, all of this tree work, it was just perfectly placed that we were at his church. He came, he had a lot of regrets about his past life, but for working alongside him and just such a tender-hearted man for the Lord, you got the opportunity to kind of see this is what it would be like to work alongside Christ. And Christ was obviously perfect, but Randall just has that persona about him that you just feel completely enveloped by that love. So I would encourage everybody, join, do whatever it is that you can. Obviously, the prayers are very helpful, but whatever opportunity is, people are in tragedy all the time. So if you have a chance to step into that, don't have any fear. Trust the Lord, and He'll guide all of your words and steps. So thank you.
I'm Bill Gandhi. I feel like I need to introduce myself to these folks here because I had a completely different trip than they did. We got there Wednesday afternoon, and by Thursday morning, I left them, went somewhere else, and I didn't see them until the following Wednesday when we went to the airport. So think about infrastructure of something. Pastor prepares a sermon. We hear the sermon, but we don't know all that goes into that, right? Same thing with the music up here, the hours that they spend. And I'm here to tell you, Samaritan's Purse, the infrastructure, the girding underneath, the preparation for all of the volunteers to then go and do the work, whether it's getting the mud out of a flooded house or getting trees away from where there was a tornado or wind and fire. That preparation work is phenomenal. It's a tremendous organization. Within 2 days of the fire, they were there, as Brian said, with the rapid response team. They had set up at this church within hours. But this is 45, 50 minutes away from Lahaina. It's not the launch point. They've got 3,000 plus people waiting to go to help sift through ashes and to help the people in Lahaina. They can't get in yet, at least not that I've heard yet, because of toxins and EPA has to clear it and everything else. But they've released a field 10 minutes north of Lahaina, and I was taken there that Thursday with 4 other fellas, and we started a building of the camp at which all of the volunteers who go will launch from, very close to Lahaina. So we framed a kitchen, we framed shower facilities, we set up tents for housing. You can see pictures of all these things here. Tents for dining, an administrative tent. There were multiple, large, 70 kW generators, air conditioning set up in these tents. These guys are talking about the friends that we made. Even when we're dealing with, Cavalcante in our backyard this week, these guys are texting me, hey, are you guys okay? They ride with you, these folks that you got to meet. I'm working with, 13 other fellas they were asked to come from different parts of the United States because this is what they do. They build, they structure, they can get there quickly. So they brought this team together for this part, and I was really privileged to be able to be a part of that. So, would you finish up, sir? So, yeah.